You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
To peel back the curtain a little bit, I was planning on making a video on Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, but frankly, as I was playing it and getting notes and things like that, really the only thing that was coming to mind was, hey, this is a really great stealth game. And it is a really great stealth game, and you should play it, and I do recommend it, but the types of videos that I enjoy making is either using a design concept as like a lens to analyze a specific game, or to focus on one specific seemingly small aspect of a game and show how that small decision kind of ripples out into a lot of other things in the game and how it can reinforce itself and the overall design ethos of the game. And so I want to pivot from chaos theory and instead say, hey, you should really play it. It's a really good game, but I'm going to talk about RuneScape this video. Specifically, what I want to talk about with RuneScape is that through a very specific set of overall narrative and UI design choices, RuneScape is able to really lean into the sandbox style of MMO and allow the game to feel approachable and low stakes enough that almost any type of player is able to engage with it in any type of way that they want to. Before we get into it, though, I do feel like I need to throw out a few disclaimers. The first one being that I literally said in the last video that I don't really like talking about live service games. I was talking about that specifically with Rematch, and the reason why I said that in the previous video is, say that I put out a critique or a thought or something along those lines for a live service game, but the nature of the live service game is that it's ever changing and updating, so 6 months from now that opinion or observation could be obsolete or not relevant anymore. The reason why I feel comfortable talking about RuneScape, though, which technically I guess is a live service game because every MMO is a live service game, is that it has a very specific feature with it that I find really interesting. It's the voting feature. Basically, if you're a paying member, you get to vote on what gets changed, what gets added, what gets removed from the game, and it's a very interesting way of maintaining consistency within the game and allowing the players to really feel like they have an input in the tone and nature that the game takes shape in. And through that, RuneScape has done a really good job being consistent and maintaining its overall design thesis, because every single change in implementation gets basically beta tested by the players to see if they want it or not. The second thing that I want to talk about is that when I start talking about MMOs is I'm going to be painting with incredibly broad strokes. The MMO space, much like any other genre, is an incredibly diverse space with any number of games that have different takes and interpretations and things like that within it. For this video specifically, I'm going to be painting with incredibly broad strokes. Mainly what I'm doing is I'm using MMOs as a discussion point for specific design choices and how that ripples out and affects the way that the player interacts with the game as a whole. Almost done with the disclaimers. I want to call out that RuneScape is a very large game with a lot of stuff going on in it, and you can do a ton of things within it. And because of that, I want to keep this video focused on these very specific things that I'm calling out. And so I'm not going to get into how all the skills interact with one another, any of the raids, any of the PvP or anything like that. I'm really trying to focus and hone in because of how large this game is, and I really don't want to make like a massive video. I'm trying to very specifically talk about these design choices and how it affects how people interact with the game. Last disclaimer is that a lot of the gameplay footage that you're going to be seeing here is my gameplay footage, but it is going to be a lot of low-leveled stuff, and it's going to be something that's specifically referred to as skilling, which is doing a lot of these menial tasks in order to increase your overall skill in something. So chopping down a tree increases your wood cutting skill, mining from from an ore vein, increases your mining level, things like that. That's a lot of the gameplay footage that you're going to be seeing. So if you're looking at this gameplay footage and being like, I don't really get it, there is a lot of other stuff to do in RuneScape. This is just what I like doing, so that's what you're getting. So with all that out of the way, let's talk about RuneScape. In order to properly discuss what I had said in the thesis of the video, I feel like I need to explain a few different terms and concepts so that we're all operating on the same playing field. So an MMORPG, or an MMO for short, stands for massively multiplayer online role-playing game. Essentially what that means is that when the designers are building the game, they're building this game with the understanding that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of players are going to be playing it at the same time on the same map. So when you log on to an MMO, you're logging onto a space and entering into a world that has a ton of other players all on that world at the same time. A very popular one, in my opinion, the most popular one, is World of Warcraft, and RuneScape, the game that we're talking about, is also an MMO. So great, we got MMO. There are two different types of MMO, so we're gonna go one layer deeper. There's a theme park MMO and there's a sandbox MMO. Coincidentally, World of Warcraft is a theme park MMO. RuneScape is generally a sandbox MMO. A theme park MMO generally is the idea that the responsibility of enjoyment is on the designers to give to the player. So much like a real life theme park designer is going to think about how many loops are in the roller coaster, how fast it goes, how many drop, like all of that stuff, so that when you get on it, you go through the thing that they've pre-planned and pre-built and all of that stuff. That's a lot of what the designers are doing in a theme park. They're thinking about what quests you're going on, where you're gonna go, when are you going to get there, what items you're gonna get when you get there. A lot of it is pre-planned out before the player even arrives. Hey. Like I had said previously, World of Warcraft is a really good example of a theme park MMO. It's generally the more popular variation of MMO right now. So Final Fantasy XIV is another one, Elder Scrolls Online is another one. All of the really big MMOs right now tend to be theme park MMOs. With a sandbox MMO, on the other hand, the responsibility of enjoyment is much more on the player than it is the designer. So a lot like a sandbox, you're going to have a space with a lot of different tools and ways of interacting, a lot of like buckets and shovels and things like that. And really it's the person that's inside the sandbox and playing in the sandbox that has to, or to put another way, has the ability to make their own fun. So in terms of the MMO, it's going to be a lot less, you know, the player is going to arrive at X location and do X thing and they're going to experience X moment. It's a lot more building systems and how those systems interact with one another, and how the player can either add to, modify, disrupt, change, and all of those things. Basically just setting up a sandbox with a lot of interesting things inside it and allowing all of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of players to interact with those however way they choose. Like I had said, old school RuneScape leans more on the sandbox side of MMO. They're a little bit more rare, or a little bit more niche nowadays. One that was really popular back in the day was Star Wars Galaxies. That's probably one of the biggest sandbox MMOs. But again, because the responsibility of enjoyment is on the players instead of the designers, it's going to be a lot more niche and generally are not going to be as popular as theme park MMOs. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, and that's not necessarily a good thing. That's kind of just a thing that has sprung up as the MMO genre has matured and developed and games have risen and fallen and things like that. There might be in a few years a completely different style of MMO that no one has thought of yet, but right now there's theme park and there's sandbox, and generally every MMO has shades of theme park and shades of sandbox, but typically one will lean more towards one side or the other. If you've watched any previous videos, you'll probably notice that the framing of this is a lot like when I was talking about internal and external motivators. You also probably saw notes of the linear level design and open world design. It's really interesting how all of these concepts will stack on top of or inform each other, and how you can use them as lenses to view the same thing in a number of different ways. I think it's really cool. Conceivably, someone else could make a video like that through the lens of internal and external motivations, and it would be equally as interesting. It's very cool when you learn these different design concepts that you can use them as lenses to view and interpret and talk about games. I went on a tangent, I'm sorry. I love video games. Let's move on. So talking about those different terms and concepts and things like that, let's revisit the overall goal or thesis of this video. Basically, what I want to talk about is that with RuneScape being more of a sandbox style MMO, it has a few different narrative and UI design choices that really lean into that aspect, that allow the game to feel super approachable and low stakes, as opposed to a lot more theme park style MMOs. So let's start with the first point, the overall narrative design decision. There are a lot of different quests in old school RuneScape, and generally the conceit or decision that they decided to go with for a lot of these quests is that you are not necessarily the main character. What I mean by that is that a lot of these quests start out with you initiating them as opposed to someone seeking you out. You really are some adventurer within this world that is at the right place at the right time. And that's how a lot of these quests are initiated, is that you actively seek them out and you are merely at the right place at the right time. And because of that, you are now wrapped up in whatever this quest is going to be. And why am I focusing on that small narrative decision? Well, to talk about that, we're gonna have to talk about Mass Effect 3. Just trust me on this, okay? So for those who don't know, Mass Effect 3 is the third game in a space opera cinematic RPG game, where essentially in the universe of Mass Effect, there is this ancient alien race of very destructive mechanical beings known as the Reapers, and they have the capabilities to basically wipe out all life everywhere. They are an extinction level event for everyone. And the first and second games are all about you as Commander Shepard preparing for the inevitable arrival of the Reapers, and everything you're doing in Mass Effect 1 and 2 is leading up to the exact moment that the Reapers arrive, because they are such a massive extinction level event for everyone and everything. At the beginning of Mass Effect 3, all of the Reapers show up, and now it is a full-out galactic-wide war, and you as Commander Shepard are basically the center point of this entire galactic war. No pressure. Except it's actually a ton of pressure and the entire game follows you as you're trying to basically scrounge together the last amount of resources and allies to fight back the Reapers so that they don't kill literally everyone and everything. And so the entire game of Mass Effect 3 is the climax of this 3-game trilogy where it is go time. There is no time to waste. The Reapers are here. They're killing everyone. You need to go. You need to fight back. There's literally no time to waste. And so because of that, and because of the massive buildup from these two previous games and how they were billing and presenting this threat to me in the third game, really all I did was the main quest. I beelined the main quest. I didn't do any side quests. I didn't explore if I didn't have to. The game had communicated so effectively that the Reapers were such a monumental problem for literally everyone and everything that I knew, that I did not feel like I could waste any time doing anything that was not the main quest. Now, on one hand, that is really effective narrative design, and that's a real testament to their ability to communicate the stress and tone and severity and stakes of the story that they're trying to tell in that game. On one hand, it's a really good thing. On the other hand, I as a player, because I was so stressed and because they communicated that stress and the stakes so effectively to me, I did not engage with anything besides the critical path. And so you could also view that as kind of a misstep. They did their job too well. They communicated the stakes too well to me that I ended up shortening my experience with the game because I was so bought into what they were telling me. So how does this relate to RuneScape? Well, if we go back to the idea that you are not the main character, that you're not the Commander Shepard for a lot of these quests, that you are really just some adventurer that is inserting yourself into the quest, else that you are just an adventurer at the right place and at the right time, in the back of your head, you aren't thinking that you're the main character. You're thinking that you're an adventurer here. You're thinking that this is a story that you are choosing to participate in, as opposed to a story that is being thrust upon you. In the back of your head, you're thinking, if I don't engage with this quest, that's okay. Another adventurer, another player right next to me will engage with this quest. Mechanically, you are necessary for this story. Within the narrative that they set up, you specifically are not what is needed. It's just someone that is willing to help. And there are hundreds of other players right next to you that are willing to help. And so narratively, in the back of your head, you're not feeling the same level of pressure to complete the quest, because you just showed up and decided to help, and you know that someone else, if you don't do it, will show up and decide to help. Because you're not the main character, you are an adventurer in this world that is choosing to help. It doesn't have to specifically be you, it just has to be someone, and there are hundreds of other someones there. And so you don't feel the same Mass Effect 3 style stress of completing these quests. The fact that they decided to go with you not being the main character and you're just an adventurer within this world, this is the decision, I mean, that ripples out into a bunch of other things. And so in the back of your head, because you're just an adventurer existing within this world, it makes sense why you would skill and fish for 6 hours, or chop wood, or level up your archery, or just do the PvP, or get really into blacksmithing or something like that. It makes sense narratively that you would goof off because you are not inherently required for these quests. It just needs to be someone, and that someone could be you if you want it to be, or it could be someone else. They tend to keep a lot of the stakes in these quests low enough that you feel comfortable walking away from them also. I know that a lot in the later quests, the stakes do get ramped up and you do become more and more important, but let me talk about the UI first and then I'll go back into that. To really play into this design idea that you really are just some adventurer and not the main character of these stories that they're trying to do, when you spawn into RuneScape for the first time, you don't have a large main quest notification that pops up on your screen and immediately sets you off on this like giant chain of events or anything like that. When you jump in, it doesn't really direct you to doing this giant quest line or anything. Yes, there is an activity advisor that says, hey, if you need something to do, maybe go do this quest or this quest or this quest or anything. But a lot of those quests, again, are those low stakes quests, and they're not these giant chains where you are the Commander Shepard super important guy. There are things that you can choose to do, but they are not things that you can have to do. They're not things that the game is implicitly saying that you have to do or you should do. You can do them. Mechanically, the UI treats the quests as just another thing that you can do as opposed to something you should do or something you must do. There is a lack of implicit shame from the UI and the narrative. The game is priming you to treat everything within the game as something you can do or something you choose to do, as opposed to outwardly directing you saying, hey, go here, talk to this person, do this thing, or anything like that. It feels like a lot of the time in theme park MMOs, if you are not listening to what the UI and the narrative are telling you to do, you are in the back of your head almost shamed for not doing that. Why are you not engaging with this in the way that the designers intended? Why are you not riding the roller coaster that I specifically built for you, as opposed to a sandbox where they're okay if you choose to not use the specific bucket or specific shovel, because at the end of the day, the goal of the sandbox is just for you to have fun, not for you to ride any specific ride particularly. This is one of the beautiful things about RuneScape, is that they do a really good job of making everything feel like a choice, and if you do choose to do it, then the game goes with you on that. This is what I mean by when you do get to a lot of those higher level quests where you do become the Commander Shepard important guy. Those only happen because you have put in the time and have shown that you as a player want something like that. And so the game goes, okay, if you are a player that enjoys quests, that enjoys doing all of these things, then we will start giving you these more intense quests or these more in-depth quests. But it doesn't force you to do these in-depth quests. You have to actively seek them out out and almost prove to the game that you want to do them. And so that's why I feel like the later level quests don't really invalidate this, they almost support this idea. If you want to do this thing, great, we're here for you for it. Or if you don't want to do it, that's also fine too. We just want you to have a good time. And because of these two specific choices with the overall narrative of you just being an adventurer that exists in this world, and the UI treating every activity as basically an even playing field, it does a really good job making the game feel approachable enough that if you don't want to do quests, that's great. If you want to do quests, that's great. If you just want to do PvP, great. If you don't, great. If you just want to do raids, great. If you don't, great. If you want to do crafting, great. It's okay with you engaging with the game however you want it to, because it treats every activity as equally valid for you to either engage with or not engage with. It exudes a confidence that I feel like a lot of theme park MMOs don't have, where it's okay with you engaging with the game exactly how you want to engage with it. Before we wrap this up, let's talk about a few dissonant notes. The first dissonant note is that if you do choose to check out old school RuneScape, which I hope you do, it is really fun, make sure that you download the RuneLite launcher as well as the Jagex launcher. So old school RuneScape has the official launcher, Jagex, but they also have a community run launcher called RuneLite. And what is so good about RuneLite is that you are able to download a ton of plugins, or what they called. Mods could be another way to describe them, where basically it can change the visuals, it can change the UI, it can change a whole bunch of stuff. And so I really recommend, if you are going to play this game, to look into the RuneLite launcher. There are a ton of videos on YouTube about how to set them up and a lot of great plugins to download. I really recommend it. Next note, there are two different ways to play old school RuneScape. There is the free version and there is the monthly subscription. I really recommend starting out free and basically playing it as long as you want to. There are going to be stuff that you can't do. Like, for example, you can't vote. Which is a crazy thing to say out of context, but you know what I mean. But in addition, there are a few skills that you can't access. There are a few quests that you can't access either, but I really recommend that you start out free because of how massive this game is. You can get a ton of mileage out of just playing for free. I'm still playing for free, and I don't really feel compelled or shamed by the game to get a membership. So I really recommend play for free as long as you can. My last dissonant note is that I know that this entire video was basically me saying how great it is or how smart it is that the game does not force you or strong arm you into doing the quest. But I will say, do actually play the quests. The quests are really good. The quests are very well written. They are engaging. They are funny. They are witty. They have puzzles. They have riddles, treasure finding. The quests in old school RuneScape are very, very good, and I do really recommend them. And I know I spent basically saying this entire video how smart it is that they don't force you to do the quest, but I personally am saying do actually do the quests. They're really good. There is a joke that goes around in the RuneScape community, and it goes, you never really quit RuneScape, you really just take breaks from it. And those breaks could be days, weeks, months, years, decades, anything like that. Eventually you'll be coming back. And I think that these two decisions that they made at the onset of making this game are really big contributors for why people feel like they can come back to the game after all of these years. You can see how, in conjunction with one another, these two decisions really ripple out and set the tone of engagement for this sandbox MMO, and how they really lean into that sandbox aspect of it and how it flourishes because of that. I just think that they were very smart decisions to make on the onset, and I wanted to talk about them and I wanted to praise them. And this isn't even going to how all of the other decisions that they made that lean into the sandbox aspect really lends itself to being an approachable game where there's not really a class system, where how all the skills interact with one another, or how pro plugin they are, so it allows for a lot of these different player driven stories like Swampletics or things like that. Really, again, I just wanted to focus on these two small ideas and how these two ideas ripple out and really color how the player chooses to interact with this game. And I know what some of y'all are gonna say. Y'all are gonna say that I made this video so that I could have an excuse to play a lot of old school RuneScape. And while that is kind of true, I will counter with, I was going to play it anyway.